Hello everybody, my name is KarQ. Welcome to the KarQives, the KarQ Archives channel where it's a lot more casual. Just to cut to the chase today, we have the Overwatch experimental patch notes dropping, in which creators created a limited time edition where it's a lot of over-the-top balance changes coming into the game to give the game a bit of a fresh and fun mode to play. We had ML7 covering supports, Lemon Kiwi on tanks, Jake doing the projectile damage heroes, and Wanted doing the hit scan heroes. I'm gonna read the patch notes to you, give you my thoughts, and show a little b-roll footage of what it looks like so you can hop in game and have a good time. Let's begin with the general hero updates. All hit scan damage now scales 50% at maximum fall off from 30%. Basically what that means is right now, the minimum damage at long distance is 30%. So for example, Cassidy, the 70 damage for a body shot. If an enemy is super far away, it'll only deal 30% of that 70 damage, which is 22.5 damage on like the Echo super far away. But now it's at 50% minimum. So instead of doing 22.5 on that Echo across the map, you will now do 35 damage to the Echo because that's 50% of its 70. Basically, it just means hit scans will be more powerful at long ranges. Tanks. This seems like a tank passive that Lemon Kiwi implemented, in which all tank weapons, abilities, and ultimate damage reduced by 50%. So this is going to be a huge overarching balance change on top of all the tanks. However, crowd control durations applied to tanks are reduced by 50% for the following types: stuns, sleeps, knockdowns, knockbacks, slow, freeze, root, and traps. Basically, turning tanks from doing less damage into actual tanks. You know, 50% less crowd control. It won't get knocked up as much, won't get stunned as long. That's pretty good. Following crowd control abilities are still full duration for tanks. Oh, so just to keep power where power is supposed to be, which is May Blizzard, Ryan Shatter, Zarya Grab, and Winston Primal Rage. That CC will still be the full, you know, knock up, knock back, pulls, whatever. D.Va. If you hold the jump key, it allows the mech to fall slowly as a new passive. This is basically Guardian Angel on the mech. Fusion cannons are primary damage reduced from 2 to 1 damage per pellet. Defense matrix now grants 30% ult charge for eating an enemy ult. Reward, using matrix correctly instead of just randomly flashing it. And boosters are down to 2 seconds. So this is really encouraging the flying around D.Va style. You can't do as much damage because the fusion cannons are down, but you can fly every 2 seconds and slowly fall down, really encouraging the Mobile Suit Gundam style of D.Va. Okay, Orisa, armor increased from 250 to 500, so another 250 health on her 450 health puts her at also 700 HP. Fortify now grants 40% increase to movement speed, and allies near them within 8 meters have 20% increased movement speed and 20% damage reduction. So she's really like rallying her teammates together and stampeding into them, because you can't get headshot in Fortify. So now you're gonna be faster, and all your allies will be a little faster. You're actually stampeding in. It'll encourage more of a aggressive playstyle instead of a plant the shield and sit still kind of style. I like that. Halt no longer fires a projectile. What does this look like? Let's show you. And it now attaches a halt tendril to the nearest enemy within 5 meters and tethers them to Orisa for 1.5 seconds. Huh. That is really cool. Supercharger no longer grants allies the damage buff, however. Wow, okay. And now it just slows enemies near it. So instead of being less power creep, because they've already cut all the damage and everything in half from tanks. Orisa's supercharger is now a utility thing. You stampede into them, pop your supercharger, and slow everybody nearby. That's pretty cool. These are some great changes from Lemon Kiwi so far, I have to say. Reinhardt's armor is increased from 200 to 400. That means he's gonna have 700 HP right now. Fire Strike. Enemies hit by Fire Strike now receive 50% less healing for 4 seconds. I really like that, actually. This is pretty good. A lot of other games have a burning effect in which, you know, if you burn them, they do less healing. Any League players, if they get ignited, I think they heal for only half the amount. Charge can now pin multiple targets. Okay, like a little bowling ball. You can stack like 3 people in a row. Tanks really do be tanking. Reinhardt is actually going to be kind of cool now. Movement speed is increased by 40% for the first 2 seconds of that charge, and it can be canceled by pressing the ability. This was a test. This is going to be in Overwatch 2, where you can cancel the charge, so this is going to be cool. Okay, Hog also has his HP is still going to be 600 total, but instead of 600 white health, he's going to be a 300 white health, 300 armor split to make him a bit more tankier. The hook pulls enemies a lot quicker, so there's less time to counterplay or react to it. Like you can't lamp it or, you know, sleep him as easily. That's actually pretty cool. Take a breather. No longer heals for a flat 300, but now it heals 100 health plus an additional 100 health per nearby ally, encouraging him to play more with his team, I suppose. Roadhog gains 25 damage reduction when near allied teammates, and it's shared with allies within 5 seconds. So it really is a team play ability, no longer a go on the flank, hook somebody, and then stay alive kind of button. And he also gains 50% damage reduction when near another tank hero. Yeah, this entire take a breather is play with my team, please. Whole Hog is no longer going to knock enemies back, which is kind of crazy. It loses that power, but now it's just a potent damage tool. And it's cancelable, so you don't get stuck in it to give it, you know, a bit more control. I like it. Sigma, armor increase from 0 to 200. Armor increase from 0 to 200 with shield pool health removed. We notice a trend here. We're removing Lemon Kiwi wants to remove all the shield health, so it's less base regenerative and just tankier with armor. Hyperspheres now fires 1 projectile per shot instead of 2, and its recovery from 1.2 to 0.5 seconds, which means you shoot it a little faster, which looks like this. Accretion, his rock, now receives an additional charge on a successful hit, rewarding people if they, you know, land a good skill shot. I like that. And spending the additional charge, however, puts it on cooldown immediately. Okay, that's cool. Kinetic Grasp, Sigma is now immune to crowd control while Kinetic Grasp is active. This is like Orisa's Fortify, I suppose. You can't get stunned out of it. That's really cool. It's a save my life button. Experimental Barrier, cooldown reduced to 0.1 seconds. It's currently at 2 seconds right now. When you put out your shield and retract it, it goes on a 2-second cooldown. Now it's almost instant. Not quite instant at 0 seconds, but slight delay at 0.1. That's back to old Sig, basically. Winston, armor increase from 150 to 300, giving him about 650 health now. Jump Pack now launches enemies into the air upon landing, kind of like a trampoline. And Primal Rage, wow, gets 1700 health instead of 1000, a 70% increase. However, the health decays by 75 per second to a minimum of 350. Okay, so you start off with a lot, but it decays as time goes on. Holding primary fire input now charges up the punch. Instead of just like, you know, holding the button down and just smacking left, right randomly, you can actually charge up a punch and get a, you know, a calculated. It adds a lot more skill to the Primal Rage. Wrecking Ball. He no longer has his grappling claw detaching after 6 seconds, which is a recent addition back in January, so you can no longer spin to win forever, but now apparently you can spin to win again. And you can no longer reach your maximum speed, deal damage, or knock back enemies if Grappling Claw has been active for more than 6 seconds. Okay, so I take that back. You can stay attached for a long time, so you can set yourself up for a, you know, grappling play without worrying about it detaching. However, the spin to win is still will still be discouraged because you can no longer, you know, hit your speed or knock back enemies multiple times if it's been longer than 6 seconds. So that's pretty cool. You take that power away, which was the spin to win, but you know, reward or you give back the power in which you can set up grapples again. I like that. That's probably the change that could probably go into the live game. Minefield now blinds enemies for 2.5 seconds when damaging enemies. When blinded, they're unable to see anything except for their HUD. Wow, a flashbang, a literal flashbang. You know, Cassidy's flashbang is a stun, but this is a literal blind on your screen. CS and Valorant players rejoice. Now, Pile Driver reduces the cooldown of Adaptive Shield by 1 second for each enemy it hits. You want to pop your Adaptive Shield before slamming so that after you slam, it can help the cooldown. This will discourage people from slamming and then pressing the Adaptive Shield and then just rolling out with high health. You want to Adaptive Shield beforehand, which could make it a bit more difficult because you might not be able to get everybody in range to get the juicy Adaptive Shield. Probably have to do it right before you slam down. Zarya. Health increased from 200 to 300 and armor added from 0 to 300. So she has 300 white health and 300 armor, 600 total HP because all her blue shield pool health has been removed. That's Particle Barrier. Provides 50% movement speed to Zarya or allies based on the energy. So it scales 0.5% movement speed per 1 energy as an addition to her barrier. Wow, so it gives you a better engagement, disengagement tool. The Rein Zarya is back. Or Orisa Zarya. You speed up your Orisa by 50%. The Orisa pops 4 to 5. I think it's additive movement speed. That's gonna be crazy. And you stampede your whole team in. That's good. That's awesome. That's a really fun change. Ashe, the Viper, her primary fire, no longer reloads ammo individually and now instantly reloads everything at 2.25. That's crazy for overall DPS in my opinion. Coach Gun, cooldown increased from 10 to 13 seconds, so less mobility. But now, you know, remember earlier all hit scan does a bit more damage. Dynamite no longer deals self damage. Okay, so now you can throw it at your feet if like somebody dives you and you don't have to worry about detonating it on yourself. And the explosion no longer has damage fall off, so it's always gonna do the max damage. Bastion, decreasing the model size, increasing the ammo, reducing the weapon spread on Recon, which is his mobile version, and you can channel your self-repair while firing. This will make Sentry kind of dangerous, but all these other changes here above for Bastion are encouraging Bastion to be a bit more mobile and sit still less. Don't play the Sentry as often, but honestly I think the self-repair change is going to encourage more sit still playstyle because you can just keep self-healing while you fire. However, he won't be immune to CCs and stuff. Interesting to see how this plays out. Cassidy, his health, okay, this is Wanted's change, right? And he's a Cassidy main. Reverting his health back to 200, removing the fan the hammer, and the overall recovery weapon speed is back to the old one where it fires super quick like this. The combat roll is going to be a bit longer and you can no longer use it in the air to nerf that. And Deadeye, reduced visual effects. So now he's no longer red and easy to see. Okay, so actually everything, all the changes here are very outrageous. You can tell Wanted made, this is a passionate change from Wanted because this one feels like something he just wants in the base game because he doesn't care about the HP. He just doesn't want his weapon to feel weak. This is actually a net nerf in most cases, despite the faster firing speed. So for this purposes of the experimental, I think he's going to be a little bit weak if you ask me. Doomfist has another passive in addition to his passive shields he gets from hitting an ability, which is now using an ability that actually dealt no damage to enemies, reduces the current cooldowns of the other two abilities by 1 second. So basically means if you missed your shit, at least your other shit will come up a bit quicker. If you have to use your abilities for mobility where you're not necessarily hitting a target, all your other stuff comes up a bit quicker. Seismic Slam can now be cancelled after a 0.2 second delay by pressing it again just in case. For Echo, her passive is Glide, and now you get a bigger 15% speed increase, so you're a little bit more, you know, fluid in the air. I like that. And a new passive with Echo called Assimilation, where she heals for 30% of her missing health when she gets a final blow, and this healing also generates ultimate charge and affects her duplicate copy. Echo, before all these experimental stuff, was already a really strong hero, but you know, these are outrageous changes. This is a very, you know, reset, feast or famine kind of hero now. If you go all in and you get a kill with your focusing beam, that's an execution. You'll heal up naturally. This is a pretty interesting change. And we have a Genji Swift Strike, and now has 2 charges. Refund 1 of Swift Strike per elimination, and activating Blade also refunds a charge as well. However, the damage has to be reduced down to 30 to compensate. This is going to make Genji super hyper mobile. That's going to be great. The blade itself, though, is going to be cut in half by duration from 6 seconds to 3 seconds. That probably means you can only swing about 4 times if my math is correct. However, after the blade ends, Genji gains 40% attack speed for 6 seconds. This really feels like a MOBA. You know, using the blade, it's not like a, you know, only nano blade and that's the end all be all. Dash in, use the quick swift strikes, and then after the blade, you're a little quicker again with the attack speed. I like this. It makes Genji, you know, a lot more ninja-y. Hanzo, the Dragon Strike. The dragons now spawn immediately if the arrow impacts terrain. So instead of the animation where he says Ryuga wa Teki and he fires the arrow, then it splits the dragons, it's now instant. Okay, for Storm Arrow, it's no longer an ability that gives you 5 arrows. It's now a buff button. Press it and you get buffed, in which your lunge is on a short cooldown. When you draw your bow, it's going to be a shorter time to get the max charge at 0.45 seconds, and you're no longer slowed while you do it to encourage you to get up on cool angles. This is a really cool change. Junkrat no longer has footsteps. Ooh, the J-Crack coming out. He wants to flank. He's in your back line. He's in your home with a knife out. Riptire, increased movement speed when detaching from walls. Okay, so now your Riptires can wall bounce like a Lucio. You get a little bit of extra speed by maneuvering around. But other than that, no other changes to Rat, except he's very flanky now. This is a bit underrated, I think. May, fully frozen targets take 100% increased quick melee damage from all sources. That is very outside the box. So yeah, after you freeze someone, it's still worth it for May and everybody else to still go for headshots if possible, but this will mean it's a 60 damage melee instead of 30. So it depends on your instance of damage or the hero you're playing. If you're playing a pretty weak hero and you're up close, you might as well quick melee to do the 60 burst, then lock yourself into a shot. Ice Wall now launches heroes in the air when built underneath them. Oh, so oh my gosh, I can already see the play right now. You ice wall your Cassidy who's high nooning and launch him, fling him up into the air to get a crazy good angle. This is gonna be fun. And then Cryo Freeze has a bigger size or a bigger hitbox or model, which allows Cryo Freeze to be used as a blocking tool to block D.Va bombs or something like that. Pharah rocket launcher impact now applies a 25% movement speed reduction for 0.5 seconds. Okay, and the knockback is increased by 100%. So rocket launcher not only does the 120 damage, but it's very disruptive, always causing a slow debuff and knocking them around like a ping pong. Concussive blast for her movement ability now has 2 charges. That's good because a lot of Pharahs use it for self mobility rather than using it offensively. So giving it 2 charges, similar to how Junkrat has 2 concussion mines, gives you options to use it offensively or defensively. And enemies knocked back by the conch become immune to all knockbacks for 1.5 seconds. Okay, so to stop like Omega Snowball by concussing them into a rocket launcher where they get slowed and knocked back again, this will actually halt the knockback so they don't get, so it's not too ridiculous. It levels out the power a little bit. This is pretty reasonable. Good job, Jake. Reaper, Shadow Step, cooldown decrease from 10 to 5 seconds to encourage you to really go on the flank and TP around, and can now be used while wraithing. Wow, okay, so you can escape pretty sneakily. To get out, it's 8 to 4 seconds, so it's gonna be up way more often, and it no longer reloads your weapon, but doesn't give you a movement speed. To give you more options to at least phase in and phase out, TP out, just giving Reaper more mobility is what it feels like. Soldier, Tactical Visor, reduces visual effects around Soldier while active, so he's not, a bright shoot me target or CC me while he pops Visor. Okay. Helix no longer does self-damage, but the cooldown is increased. So this will encourage Soldier to get into better positions by, Helix jumping onto certain spots, and he doesn't have to waste like his own biotic field to heal himself if needed. Sombra, Machine Pistol. For hit scans, her weapon spread is reduced, but her shots per second is increased. This actually just gives her a lot more potency in her weapon, because 20% spread reduction makes her better at long ranges. Hack, cooldown when interrupted. So if you punish, if you interrupt the hack, 3-second delay now instead of 2, so that's a nerf. The hack duration reduced from 5 to 3.5 seconds. That's also a nerf. Wanted basically just wanted to remove the power from hack, make her more of a DPSer here. Stealth is no longer permanent and is now on an 8-second maximum duration, and no longer plays an audio cue if it reaches. Oh, so you can no longer, if you wait, if you don't unstealth manually and you time out the 8 seconds, at least it doesn't make any noise, if you mess up the timing. Interesting. We have a Symmetra, which actually got moved to the support role. We have old Symmetra again. She's no longer a DPS. Her primary fire per second decreased from 60, 120, 180 to 40, 80, 120. So she's no longer, level 3, DPS laser everything. Secondary fire is now from 120 to 80, so less potency on the DPS altogether. Seems like almost a 30% decrease in everything. 33%. Secondary fire now deals 50% increased damage to non-heroes like turrets and barriers. Okay, to encourage her to, shoot the Torb turret and help out in that regard. Ammo is increased from 70 to 80. The sentry health went up from 30 to 50, but it no longer deals damage. Sentries are gonna be like, you back up and your turrets are gonna heal allies for 20 health per second per turret. And you get how many turrets? 3 turrets? Holy crap, the range is increased from 10 to 12. The building time is quicker to set them up. Cooldown is reduced, and it no longer slows target's movement speed, of course. So now you have like a healing fort in the back. It's gonna make Symmetra way more powerful on defense, because to set up like a heal in the back that can't be destroyed, teams can back up into it. Teleporter. The cooldown is now increased from 10 to 12. Okay, so it's not up as often. Allies that take the TP get 40% movement speed increase for 2 seconds, and has a 10-second cooldown per ally, so you can't, keep abusing it. So cool little movement speed. This will be good out of spawn or to set up a a flanking play where you get a huge boost. Okay, and then her ultimate Photon Barrier, health reduced from 4,000 to 2,500 health. Okay, 2,500 health is still a lot to burst through. It's still going to be a very powerful wall. Duration reduced and ultimate cost reduced by 9. Torbjorn, his rivet gun, dealing damage with primary fire adds a stacking buff that increases its damage by 5 each time, rewarding you if you hit those Cheetos from long distance, and each buff lasts for 5 seconds. So this can scale pretty hard, but this is pretty important because you know the tanks now are way tankier now with all that extra HP that Lemon Kiwi gave. This is going to be kind of cool. And for Tracer, the Pulse Bomb ultimate, as the cost has been reduced by 50%. Tracer's going to be building fast bombs, but the explosion damage is down from 350 to 190, not 200, 190, so it won't one-shot 200 HP heroes, but that means you do have to stay a little bit after to do the damage or deal a little bit of damage before sticking someone. But this will encourage Tracer to just not hold it and just use it as often as she can, and no longer does self-damage, so you can stay on them after pulsing and just make sure you get that melee or that extra damage to finish a target off. Widowmaker, grappling hook. The hook cooldown is increased, but the mine is now going to be like a useful tool because normally, let's be real, Venom Mine is a pretty meh ability, pretty bad ability. Up to 3 mines to really set your position up. Okay. Cooldown reduced from 15 to 10 seconds. Damage is reduced from 15 to 10 per second, and its overall effect reduced from 5 to 3 seconds, but the projectile speed, so it shoots a bit quicker. Okay, so overall, it looks like damage and the duration of it is going to be lower, but you have 3 mines and the cooldown shorter. So this is really an alert button more so than a damage tool. You can set it up to really check for flanks for you to maintain your position. This is a pretty cool change for Widow that feels like it could be in the real game as well. All right, and finally for supports, we have Ana, ML7. What do you have for Ana for us? Biotic Rifle. Reload time is decreased. Okay, thank God. Sleep Dart. The slept targets now appear in the kill feed. Okay, so now people can see like, hey, someone's sleeping on the top right. That's good. Allies now see an icon above them. Thank God. So it's no longer, hey, I'm slept this Tracer over here, and your teammate's like, over where? That's good. Turrets can be slept. This was actually a change that went into the game for a brief moment. I think it was a bug for a day. And Sleep Dart can now stop D.Va's mech from flying during self-destruct to stop it from getting into a cool spot. This is a cool change to Sleep Dart. I like this. And Nano Boost now increases the healing received by 50%, so this is basically having a nade effect on it. Cast time is from 0.15 to 0.05, so it's more instant, because even if it's 0.15 seconds, there are times where you die during the cast, and it happens quite a lot to Ana mains. I would know, I'm an Ana main, so this makes it a lot more instant. I dig it. Final blows dealt by allies with Nano on now decreases all of Ana's current cooldowns by 1 second to make sure you're nanoing the right person who can actually kill stuff versus keeping somebody alive to get her cooldowns up. Oh, it gives you more options to play. These are some reasonable changes to Ana, if I do say so myself. Baptiste, maximum jump height increased by 50%. Okay, so the Ana change felt like a passion project for ML7 where I can see these things going into the game. A bit fun, but some are realistic. The Baptiste change here, 50% extra jump. Okay, that's a little too Mario-like for me to be in a real game. Time to fully charge, though, is increased from 1 to 2 seconds. Immortality field, instead of 5 seconds, it's 1.5 seconds, thank God. Cooldown is decreased slightly from 25 to 23 seconds, but it now prevents allies from dropping below 20%, up from 10%. Okay, so it doesn't last as long, so it's more of an instant use, and it no longer lasts as long. Baptiste can now deal self-healing with launcher while ultimate is active only, but the duration of the ultimate is reduced. So in the previous experimental, you could just shoot the ground and heal yourself. Now you can only heal yourself if your ultimate is active. Inspire. Healing effect expires immediately if Brig dies. Thank you. There is honestly no reason why it lasted so long after she dies. All the healing should have been cut after. Kind of like when Lucio dies with the aura. Like, you're not supposed to get the aura anymore. So this feels like a real balance change. Shield Bash, you actually get a longer distance for 15% and retains more velocity when colliding with terrain, so you can do crazier Shield Bash jumps. Okay, so Whip Shot. This is only when Rally is active. Whip Shot will be the same unless she has her ultimate up, in which the knockback from Whip Shot pushes them within a 7-meter radius. What? Watch that again. The camera zooms out and she does like a little wave clear thing, like it's straight out of Dynasty Warriors. Restricts her movement though for 0.75 seconds if you use it, and it increases the cooldown by the remaining duration of Rally plus 4 seconds. For Lucio, a Sonic Amplifier is his primary fire gun. While wall riding, the damage is increased from 20 to 25, giving it a lot more damage. That's pretty big for breakpoints. Sound Barrier. Enemies that are in the area are now knocked back 6 meters. So the previous sound barrier change was, you know, Goomba Stomp. This time, Stomp, and everybody gets pulsed and pushed back a little bit to kind of make some space for your team. That's kind of cool. Valkyrie. Valk is no longer an ult. It is now ability 2, your E on PC, or whatever it is on PS4. So it's no longer an ult. It's now an actual ability you can activate, which increases your healing temporarily from 55 to 70 health per second. You no longer get the chain beam, but the duration is only 3 seconds. So if you pop your Valk, you get a little buff to the heal for 3 seconds, and the cooldown is now 20 seconds. Your flying movement speed is decreased from 7 to 6. Okay, so you're a little bit slower. And Guardian Angel movement speed reduced. Okay, so basically this ability sounds like that's a 20-second cooldown is pretty long for marginal health. 3 seconds of Valk gives you 210 health instead of 165. I guess in a pinch it can give you a little bit of a burst heal, but it feels a bit underwhelming, I will say, for a 20-second cooldown. Resurrect is now her ult again. You can resurrect 5 people at once in the maximum range from 5 to 8. Okay, so Old Mercy with the multi-res is back. Valkyrie was underwhelming, but res. Oh my god, this is going to encourage hiding playstyle again. This one's an outrageous change. My goodness. Okay, Moira. She's a brand new passive in which her quick melee now slows enemies by 30% for 1 second. This effect has a 10-second cooldown per enemy. Primary fire on her Biotic Grasp, her resource is increased by 12.5%. Okay, so you get a little bit more juice to heal if you were to play with your team and not flank. The orbs, Biotic Orbs, no longer change speeds. So normally the damage orb, when it, like, you know, or the healing orb, when it's healing someone or dealing damage, it slows down so you can, like, stay near the orb a bit longer. But now it's always at a constant speed. And after activating the ability, now holding your primary or secondary fire for 1 second will cause you to fire the orb, fire faster orb that moves at a okay, so you have a button now to speed up the orb as necessary. Coalescence, channeling on an enemy target continuously for 2 seconds, will also now lift them off the ground for 3 seconds, but this effect can only happen once per enemy. The Force, the Star Wars Force, lift them off the ground, my god. Okay, Zenyatta, a new passive called Elevation, in which he can jump higher if he holds the jump button. You basically get exo boots on Zen to reposition. Zen is all about positioning because he's so squishy. This is kind of cool. His Orb of Destruction, so his ammo is now from 20 to 25. That's an increase, so he doesn't have to reload as often. The Harmony Orb gives an additional effect if attached for an ally for longer than 2 seconds, in which tanks, oh, these are role specific. So if I orb my Rein, he gets another 20% damage reduction. For DPSs, if the orb is on them for more than 2 seconds, they get 10% movement speed increase. And for supports, the healing gets amped up from 30 health to 40 health per second. But Discord Orb is going to be nerfed down to 20. This is a pretty reasonable change for Zenyatta. This is less outrageous than the other stuff. Wow. This is one hell of an experimental. A lot of outrageous changes and a lot of, you know, real balance changes that I would actually be excited to see implemented into the real game. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and subscribe to my Clips channel, which I'll link in the description below. Peace.